Mom, it's Adam's funeral.
Well, you can't bring him back.
You can't bring him back, Clara. That's what my mother said. Her voice was flat, like she was discussing the weather. Not my husband's funeral. Not the hole being dug 6 feet deep in front of me. Those words didn't sound like comfort. They sounded like dismissal. And in that single breath, my mother confirmed what I had known my whole life. I was the afterthought. The inconvenient one. The one who never got chosen. The rain came down harder, sliding through my hair and into my mouth, mixing with the salt of my tears. I remember standing there, frozen, as the men lowered Adam's casket into the ground. My fingers were numb from gripping the bouquet of lilies he'd loved so much. They were crushed and brown at the edges now, just like everything else that used to be beautiful in my world. No one from my family came. Not Mom, not Dad, not my sister, Emily. Not even Megan, my best friend since we were kids. Only Adam's parents stood by me. They held hands and cried quietly, whispering prayers I couldn't hear. His father's jacket was soaked through, but he didn't care. They were people who showed up. People who believed in love, duty, and decency. Mine believed in appearances. I looked down at my phone, still glowing in my trembling hand. One unread message. From Mom. We need your signature. The lawyer's waiting. Don't make this harder than it has to be. That was it. No, I'm sorry. No, I love you. No, how are you holding up? Just business. Adam's parents didn't see my phone. Thank God. If they had, they might have thought I was heartless checking messages during my husband's funeral. But I wasn't. I was just trying to understand how anyone, especially my mother, could sound so casual while my entire world was being buried. I dropped the phone into my coat pocket, trying not to cry louder than the rain. The priest said something about peace and eternity, but my head was too loud with silence. When the first shovel of dirt hit the coffin, I felt the world tilt. That hollow sound, the thud of earth on wood, was like a heartbeat stopping again. I whispered, "I'm sorry, Adam," and watched as the ground swallowed the last trace of him. That night, I came home to a house that didn't feel like home anymore. It smelled like him soap, coffee, and the cedarwood cologne he wore every morning. His shoes were still by the door. His jacket still hung on the hook. His favorite mug sat in the sink. Half a ring of dried coffee inside. I walked from room to room, afraid to touch anything. Every object was a ghost. When I finally sat down, I opened my phone again. 22 missed calls. 12 from Mom. 6 from Dad. The rest from Emily and Megan. For a moment, I let myself believe maybe they were calling to apologize. Maybe they'd realized what they'd done. Then I saw the messages. Mom, we can't wait another week. The lawyer is leaving town. Dad, please don't cause drama, Clara. This isn't the time. Emily, I heard about Adam. I'm sorry? Anyway, Mom's stressed, so just sign what she sent. Megan, I wanted to come today, but Em needed me for her party. You understand, right? Understand? I turned the screen off. The light burned my eyes. That's when I started laughing, the kind of laugh that comes from somewhere broken. It wasn't funny, but I couldn't stop. Because what else do you do when everyone you thought loved you chooses convenience over compassion? I sat on the edge of the bed we'd shared and felt the empty space beside me like a missing limb. The silence was too loud. The loneliness too real. Mom's voice echoed again, "You can't bring him back!" But the truth was, she didn't want me to try. She wanted me to forget. Forget the husband who didn't come from money. Forget the man she said I'd settled for. Forget the embarrassment I'd caused by marrying someone who worked with his hands instead of owning a business. Adam and I met 10 years ago, in the most ordinary way, a spilled coffee at a campus cafe. He apologized 3 times before buying me a new one and sitting down. I remember thinking he had the kindest eyes I'd ever seen. He was studying mechanical engineering. I was in communications. He worked part-time at a repair shop to cover tuition. I was the girl who came from a family that never had to worry about bills. I fell for him anyway. My parents hated that. Dad told me once, You could do better. Mom added, think long term, Clara. Love fades, bills don't. But Adam didn't fade. He stayed through college, through first jobs, through nights when we had to count coins to buy dinner. He stayed when no one else did. When he proposed, he didn't have a diamond ring, just a small silver band. I said yes before he even finished the question. Our wedding was small but perfect. The venue was a park near Lake Erie, just as the sun dipped into the water. My parents came, but their smiles were stiff, their eyes disapproving. Emily complained the food was too simple. Megan was my maid of honor, but she spent most of the evening chatting with Emily instead of me. I told myself it was fine. I'd always been good at pretending fine. After the wedding, Adam and I moved into a small apartment with creaky floors and thin walls. We made it beautiful with what we had: thrifted furniture, second-hand art, and laughter. So much laughter. He'd come home every night covered in grease and sweat, and I'd still think he looked like a dream. We didn't have much, but we had everything that mattered. Then, one morning, everything changed. It started with headaches, then fatigue. Then one morning, he collapsed on the kitchen floor while making coffee. The hospital lights were too bright. The words, stage 4, were too heavy. 6 months, the doctor said. Maybe less. I called Mum from the hospital, my voice shaking so badly I could barely speak. Her response, "That's awful, honey. Have you thought about getting a second opinion? Anyway, Emily just got engaged. Isn't that exciting?" Exciting. That word tasted like poison. She didn't visit. Neither did Dad. Emily texted once. Hope he feels better soon. Megan said she'd come next weekend. She didn't. For months, Adam and I lived inside hospitals, chasing hope between appointments. He lost weight, lost hair, lost sleep, but never his smile. He told jokes to the nurses, thanked every doctor. One night, when he was too weak to hold his cup, I fed him soup and cried quietly. He caught my tear with his finger and said, "Hey, no more crying. We'll still find joy somehow." And we did. Even then, we'd watch old movies and hold hands, pretending the world wasn't falling apart. But the world didn't care about pretending. 3 weeks before he died, Mom called. "Clara, Emily's engagement party is in 2 weeks. You'll come, right?" "Mom, Adam might not make it that long." "Oh, don't be dramatic. The doctors always say the worst. Besides, Emily really wants you there. It would mean so much to her." I hung up without replying. The night before the party, Adam's breathing changed slower, uneven. I knew it was time. I called my parents again, begging them to come. Mom said, "We have guests flying in for the party, Clara. You can't expect us to cancel everything." "He's dying," I screamed. "Lower your voice," she said. "People die every day." That was the last conversation I had with her before he passed. When Adam took his final breath, it was 3:27 a.m. I was holding his hand. His parents were there. The room was quiet, except for the rain outside. His last words to me were, "Thank you for loving me." I stayed with him until dawn. By the time the sun rose, my parents were at Emily's brunch, laughing in photos I later saw online. I buried my husband 3 days later, alone. Now, hours after the funeral, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. "Mom again. We need your signature on the trust update." "It's just paperwork, Clara. Don't make this difficult." Difficult. That word twisted something inside me. I stared at the message, then at the framed photo of Adam on the nightstand. He was smiling, holding me on a beach somewhere we couldn't afford to visit again. I could almost hear him say, "Don't let them take more from you." I opened his old laptop. There was a document on the desktop named "For Clara." Inside was a note he'd written days before he went into hospice. "You have the kindest heart I've ever known. Don't waste it on people who only see what they can take. When they come for you, remember, love is louder than blood." That was the moment my grief hardened into resolve. I wasn't going to sign anything. I wasn't going to bend anymore. For the first time in my life, I was done begging for love that cost me my soul. So when the doorbell rang the next morning, I already knew who it would be. My parents, Emily, Megan, and I was finally ready for them. The next morning came grey and heavy, the kind of day that made everything feel like a bad dream that refused to end. I barely slept. I didn't even bother changing out of the black dress from the funeral. It didn't matter anymore. Nothing did. The house was still, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the soft tick of the clock above the stove. Each second sounded like an accusation. You're alone. You're alone. You're alone. Then the doorbell rang. I didn't move at first. My stomach twisted as if it already knew who it was. The bell rang again. Longer this time. I went to the window beside the door and looked out through the curtain. There they were, my parents, standing on the porch under one umbrella. My sister, Emily, in a pale pink coat that didn't fit the weather. And behind them, a few steps away, Megan, holding a bottle of wine and a paper bag like this, was some casual visit between friends. I didn't open the door right away. I just watched them. They looked too composed, too comfortable, for people visiting a widow. I finally unlocked the door. Mom was the first to speak. There you are. We were worried you'd do something foolish. Foolish? I repeated. Like what? Grieve? Dad stepped forward. Now, Clara, don't start. We're all under a lot of stress. Are we? I asked quietly. Because it looks like some of us are doing just fine. Emily rolled her eyes. Oh, please, don't make this about drama again. We came to help you get things sorted. I looked at her, then at Megan, who couldn't meet my eyes. Sorted? Mom smiled tightly. The family trust, dear. You know about that. We need to finalize it before the end of the month. It's just paperwork. There it was again, paperwork. The word they used like a weapon. I crossed my arms. You came here the day after my husband's funeral to talk about money? Mom sighed, as if I was a child who refused to understand. It's not just money, Clara. It's the future. Your father and I have worked hard to make sure everything is handled properly. We don't want confusion later. I could feel the tears rising again, but they weren't sadness anymore. They were anger, pure and hot. You mean you don't want to split it with me? Dad's expression tightened. That's not fair. No? I stepped closer. Then why does your update remove me completely from the trust? They froze. Emily looked at Dad, confused. Wait, what? Mom's face flushed. Who told you that? It doesn't matter, I said. What matters is that you thought I'd be too broken to notice. Clara, please, Dad said softly. This isn't the time. I laughed short and sharp. When is the right time, Dad? After the burial? After you've cashed everything out? Stop being dramatic, Mom snapped. You don't need the money. Adam had insurance. You'll be fine. Her voice was calm again, but her words were acid. Behind her, Megan flinched. Insurance? I whispered. You mean the money he left so I could pay for the home we built together? The one I'm still drowning in debt over because you never offered to help? Don't twist this, Mom said. We're just doing what's best for the family. I took a breath that felt like fire in my chest. You mean for Emily? Emily stiffened. What's that supposed to mean? It means this has always been about you, I said. Everything has. Every birthday, every graduation, every moment in my life. When I thought, maybe, just maybe, I'd be enough. You were the center. You still are. That's ridiculous, she said, crossing her arms. You've always been jealous. Jealous? My laugh broke in half. You had Mom's love, Dad's praise, their money, their approval, and now you want the rest. Dad stepped in again, his voice tight. That's enough, Clara. But I couldn't stop, because once the truth starts spilling, it doesn't go back. Megan tried to speak next. Clara, maybe we should just sit down. Everyone's upset. I turned to her slowly. Why are you here, Megan? She blinked. What? You weren't at the funeral. You didn't call. You didn't text until Mom told you to. So why are you here now? She shifted uncomfortably. I wanted to check on you. And Emily asked me to come. She thought maybe I'd listen to you, I finished. Silence. I could feel Adam's words in my head. You'll learn who your people are when the lights go out. He was right. Mom cleared her throat, breaking the silence. We didn't come to fight. We just need your signature. After that, we can all move forward. Forward? I asked. You mean without me? Dad ran a hand through his thinning hair. You're being unreasonable. Emily will inherit the house and most of the investments. Yes, but what? I interrupted. But I get nothing? Because I married someone who wasn't born rich? No, Mom said. Because you made your choices, Clara. You wanted to live differently. You wanted independence. Well, this is what that looks like. The words stung so hard I almost forgot to breathe. Adam once told me my mother was a woman who wrapped cruelty in logic she could gut you and call it responsibility. I took a step toward her. You know what's funny, Mom? Independence wasn't what I wanted. I wanted love, and you made me pay for it. Her mouth tightened. Enough. Sign the papers. I'm not signing anything. Her eyes narrowed. If you refuse, we'll have to take legal steps. Don't do this to yourself. To myself? I repeated. You mean to you? For the first time, Dad looked uneasy. Maybe we should come back another day. But Mom wasn't backing down. No, we finish this now. I walked past them to the living room. My hands were shaking, but not from fear anymore. I pulled open a drawer in the cabinet and took out my laptop. When I turned it around, their faces changed. On the screen was a video. Do you recognize this? I asked. The video played grainy footage from a restaurant patio. My family, laughing around a table decorated with balloons and champagne glasses. Emily in her pink dress, toasting to her engagement. My parents smiling. Megan beside them, clinking her glass. Then Emily's voice, clear and cruel through the background noise. Clara always has some crisis. First marrying that nobody, now making his illness the main event. Some people just love attention. Mom had said. She called us the night before the party crying again. Said he was dying that night. The timing, honestly, so inconsiderate. Megan's laugh came next. Classic Clara, always exaggerating. The video ended. No one moved. Dad looked horrified. Emily's face turned red. Mom's mouth opened, then closed again. Megan was already crying. I stood there, the laptop between us like a mirror. That's who you all are, I said quietly. That's what you thought of me while I was holding my dying husband's hand. Clara, Megan started, voice trembling. It wasn't like that. We were just laughing, I finished. At me, at him, at his death. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I'm sorry. I was stupid. I thought if I didn't laugh, Emily would. I cut her off. You thought wrong. Mom tried to recover her composure. That video was taken out of context. What context? I snapped. You mocking your daughter at a party while she buried her husband? Tell me the right context for that. She said nothing. Dad finally spoke, voice soft, almost pleading. We made mistakes, Clara, but you can't just erase your family. I took a deep breath, my voice shaking but firm. I can. I already have. I walked to the door and opened it. The wind pushed rain inside. Get out, Emily gasped. You can't be serious. I'm done, I said. Done being the second choice, the scapegoat, the joke. You all showed me who you are. I believe you now. Megan stepped forward. Please, I know I failed you. Let me make it right. I shook my head. No one who abandons me when I'm broken gets to fix me later. Mom's face hardened again. You'll regret this. We're your family. I met her gaze. Family doesn't do what you did. Family shows up. You didn't. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Emily turned first, muttering something under her breath. Dad followed, his shoulders slumped. Mom lingered, eyes cold. You always were dramatic, she said. Enjoy your independence. Then she left. Megan was last. She hesitated at the door. I really am sorry. I know, I said softly. And that's the saddest part. You're sorry now that it's too late. When the door closed, the silence in the house was enormous. I locked it, leaned my back against the wood, and cried until I couldn't see. But beneath the tears, something else had taken root. Peace. It wasn't warm or gentle yet, but it was real. For the first time in my life, I'd stood up for myself, and I knew Adam would have been proud. Later that night, I called a friend from work, Susan, one of the few people who'd come to the funeral. When she picked up, I asked, "Do you know any good lawyers who handle family trusts?" She hesitated. "I can ask my husband." "Why?" "Because mine tried to rob me at my husband's grave." Silence, then a sigh. "I'll have him call you tomorrow." "Thank you," I whispered. After hanging up, I walked to Adam's desk, opened the same laptop, and reread his note. Love is louder than blood. He was right again. By morning, the rain had stopped. Sunlight slipped through the blinds, soft and golden, touching the framed photos on the dresser, me and Adam on the beach, me laughing in his arms, both of us alive. For a brief moment, I smiled. Not because the pain was gone, but because it had meaning now. I'd survived. The family I lost had freed me to find something real, and I had a feeling that what came next was finally mine to build. It's strange how quiet life becomes after you finally stop fighting to be heard. The silence feels different now, not heavy, not sharp, just quiet. It's been 4 months since that day on my doorstep, the day I told my family to leave. 4 months since I last heard my mother's voice. 4 months since I realized peace isn't something you find, it's something you protect. For weeks after they left, I didn't know what to do with myself. Grief had been my routine. Pain had been my company. When those things started to fade, the emptiness felt almost scarier. The house was still filled with Adam's things, his jacket on the chair, his books stacked by the bed. I couldn't bring myself to move them. But one morning, I walked into the bedroom, and the sunlight hit his photo just right. It made me realize something simple but life-changing. I didn't have to erase him to move forward. I just had to stop living like I was buried beside him. So I made a deal with myself. Every day, I do one small thing for the living version of me, the version Adam wanted me to become. The first thing I did was clean the kitchen. It sounds small, but it wasn't. That room had been frozen in time since he died. Dirty cups, unopened mail, wilted flowers. It felt like moving through a museum of our last days. I scrubbed every surface until my arms ached. I threw away things that smelled of decay and kept things that smelled like life. When it was done, I stood in the doorway and realized the space didn't look haunted anymore. It looked like it was waiting. The next thing I did was go outside. I hadn't left the neighborhood since the funeral. The first time I walked to the lake, my legs felt weak, like they'd forgotten how to move without a reason. But when I reached the water, I saw a man teaching his little boy to skip stones. The boy laughed, missing every throw. The sound was light, effortless. I cried, not because I was sad, but because I remembered that joy still existed in the world. It wasn't mine yet, but it could be someday. A week later, I started therapy. It was Susan's idea, the same coworker who helped me find the lawyer. At first, I resisted. "Therapy's not for me," I said. She smiled. "It's not for the old you, Clara. It's for the one trying to grow." That first session, I sat across from a woman named Dr. Karen Lee, who had kind eyes and the patience of someone who'd seen every version of heartbreak. She didn't ask me to talk about Adam right away. She just asked, "When was the last time you felt safe?" No one had ever asked me that before. I thought about it for a long time before answering, "When Adam was alive." She nodded. "Then our work isn't just about loss. It's about teaching you that safety can come from you too." That sentence stuck with me. For months, I'd been waiting for someone to make me feel okay again. But maybe that someone was supposed to be me. Around the same time, I met Daniel. No, he wasn't another love story. Not yet. He was one of the volunteers at the community center where Susan took me one weekend. They hosted grief support meetings every Thursday. Daniel lost his wife 3 years earlier in a car accident. He was quiet, gentle, the kind of man who understood without needing details. We didn't talk much at first. We just sat in the same circle, listening to other people share. One evening, he said something that stayed with me. Grief is just love with nowhere to go. So we give it a home inside ourselves and hope it learns to live there peacefully. That line hit me so hard I wrote it down in my journal. After the meeting, I told him thank you. He just smiled and said, "We're all just trying to keep the love from turning bitter." That's how our friendship started. Weeks turned into months. The lawyer I hired confirmed what I already knew. My parents had tried to quietly remove me from the family trust, transferring everything into Emily's name. They had no legal right to do it without my signature. When the lawyer told me I was protected, I didn't feel vindicated. I felt nothing. Money was never what I wanted. All I ever wanted was decency. And now I finally understood that was something they couldn't afford. Around the 5th month, Emily reached out. It was a short email. "Clara, I heard you're doing okay. I just wanted to say I miss you sometimes. Things have been weird without you. Hope you're healing." For a moment, I thought about replying, but then I remembered her voice in that video, laughing about my husband's illness. Some wounds don't close with words, so I didn't answer. Instead, I whispered to the empty room, "I miss who I thought you were." And that was enough. By the 6th month, my world started looking different. I repainted the living room soft blue instead of grey. I adopted a rescue dog from the shelter, a shy brown mix I named Milo. He was scared of thunder, just like me. But we learned to be brave together. I planted flowers in the garden Adam once dreamed of building. I didn't know much about gardening, but I learned by doing one seed, one day at a time. Some days, I still woke up crying. But now, I didn't feel guilty about it. Dr. Lee told me, healing isn't about stopping the tears. It's about knowing why they fall. And I finally did. They fell for love, for loss, for growth. One night, after another meeting at the community center, Daniel asked if I wanted to grab coffee. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to, but because I was scared of what it might mean. Moving on felt like betraying Adam. But Daniel seemed to understand even before I spoke. He said softly, "You don't have to fall in love again. You just have to let the world love you back." We sat in that cafe until closing, talking about music, travel, silly childhood memories, all the things grief had made me forget I could enjoy. When I got home, I looked at Adam's photo on the wall and said, "I met someone who reminds me that life still wants me." And for the first time in nearly a year, I didn't feel guilty for smiling. In the 8th month, I got a call from Megan. I almost didn't answer, but something in me said I should. Her voice was small. "Clara, I know you probably hate me. I just wanted to tell you I left Emily's circle. I couldn't live with what we did." I stayed quiet. "I'm in therapy too," she continued. "Because of you. You made me realize what real strength looks like." For a second, I didn't know what to say. "Megan," I whispered, "you hurt me. Deeply. But if you're trying to be better, that matters." Tears filled her voice. "I'm sorry." "I know," I said softly. "And I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean going back." We said goodbye, and I hung up feeling lighter. Not because she'd changed, but because I had. By the time a full year passed, I could finally visit Adam's grave without breaking down. The cemetery was quiet, just a light breeze through the trees. I brought fresh lilies, the same kind from our wedding. Kneeling down, I brushed the leaves off his headstone and smiled. "Hey, love," I whispered. I kept my promise. I lived. The sky was clear that day, the lake in the distance shimmering under the Sunday. I closed my eyes and felt peace settle in my chest. Warm, steady, full. Grief hadn't left me. It just learned how to sit beside me without screaming. A few weeks later, I did something that surprised even me. I started recording my story. Susan had mentioned a local podcast that shared real stories of survival and resilience. She said, Clara, people need to hear yours. So I sat in front of a microphone one night, my voice shaking at first, and said, "My name is Clara Dawson, and this is how I learned that family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who hold you when the world lets go." When I finished, I cried again, not from sadness, but from pride. For once, my pain had purpose. Months later, the episode aired. Hundreds of messages poured in from strangers who'd been through similar things: loss, betrayal, abandonment. They said things like, "Your story made me finally leave a toxic family. I thought I was alone until I heard you speak. You helped me forgive myself." Reading those messages felt like standing in sunlight after years underground. Adam's death had taken everything from me, but somehow, it also gave me something bigger, a reason to live louder. Now, 2 years later, I'm sitting by the same lake where Adam and I once took our wedding photos. Milo's running through the grass, chasing the waves, and beside me is Daniel, sketching the horizon in a little notebook. He looks up and smiles. "You ever think Adam would like this place?" I smile back. "He'd love it. He always said peace was found by water." We sit quietly for a while, watching the sky turn pink and gold. Then I say, "You know, my mum once told me I couldn't bring him back." Daniel looks at me. "Maybe not, but you brought yourself back." The wind carries his words over the lake, and for the first time, I believe them, because in the end, it wasn't revenge or closure that saved me. It was choosing to live anyway, choosing to build something new from what was left. And that's what I want anyone listening to understand. You can't bring them back, but you can bring yourself back. One day, one breath, one quiet kind of courage at a time.